And yeah, last time, so let me go ahead and share screen real quick. And you'll see where we left off last time. So my build is still building. But for the most part, if I go here to the guide, we're following this code lab essentially. And the original idea behind the code lab was to create, so this one, let me see. This is supposed to be some sort of, let me see if I'm on the right one. Yeah, implement a real world design. I think that's the one. So let me open that one real quick, make sure we're on the right step. And yeah, they wanted us to build this essentially. If you are brand new to Compose completely, some things, if they stick out and you're not sure what they are, feel free to unmute and ask about it. For the most part, you'll see that a lot of this stuff is self-explanatory, but there are certain things that seem to be like best practices, of course. And for the most part, in this code lab, they wanted us to sort of separate all these different composable or reusable components to be their own thing, essentially, so that we don't have to remake them every single time, essentially. And we went through all these steps for the most part up to, so we created the search bar, right? We recreated this. We created this inversion or align your body element, essentially. And this is all starter code. So let me go ahead and send you this link real quick if you don't have it in the chat. And for the most part, this is the starter code right here. We created this favorite collections card as well. And I think we left off here, if I'm not mistaken. So we didn't create the row. I'll double check now. But we want to take those elements. We want to take the data that they provided us and essentially create this row. And also a grid, I believe, for the collections. So we'll get to that one in a second. But any questions before we get started? And also, can you see this fine? Is this okay?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Aldo, did you get the code or did you start it from scratch?
So we started the way that they had it, and I'll go back to Android Studio real quick. The way that they had it set up was like this, where they had these sections.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And for the most part, we've made all of these changes, right? So we've made the individual favorite collection card, align your body element, and the search bar. So that's all we've done so far. I can't even see the preview. I don't know why. Hopefully, it's super small. Okay, let's make it big. There it is. So we should be able to see it now. For the most part, that's what we've made. No changes outside of that. And yeah, we'll get started if there's no questions.
No.
Awesome.
I have a quick question regarding to the source code of these applications is available at any site?
Yeah, so the actual, you mean like the finalized product?
No, I mean, because I can see that Code Labs has all the topics, etc.
Right.
But regarding to these kind of meetings, are you guys getting the code to GitHub, GitLab, or something like that?
That's something that I completely missed, and I will do that. I have all the code from past sessions, so I'll go ahead and upload it and just share it in the meetup group. So this stuff, I'll go ahead and upload it, and you'll see it there soon. But good point and good call out.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
For sure. All right, and in case you're new, for the most part, if there's a video, I tend to skip over it. If you want to watch it, you can, but usually we just kind of dive in. I'm not here to read you a bedtime story, so I'm not trying to read the whole guide. I'm just trying to go through it step by step, and if we miss anything, obviously we'll go back. But so far, we've been pretty decent at that. So without further ado, we're going to dive into this sort of row section. So they're pretty much going over, just getting that individual element that we created, which was the align your body element right here. And we see it here. And we want to make a row out of it, essentially. And for the most part, we could use lazy row and lazy column. I think we've covered that already, but this is if you're new to Compose, it's essentially like a list that's dynamic. So it'll render whatever's going to be visible to the user for the most part. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive in. So they want us to start with a basic implementation of this lazy row. So this codelab is kind of weird in the sense that I thought they would want us to kind of try some things out, but they do want us to start out with some of this base code and then try things out at the bottom. So you'll see how it works in a second, but I'm not going to copy this. I'm just going to write it out for muscle memory reasons. And yeah, we'll create a row and just go ahead and pass those items essentially.
Yeah, I completed that codelab today and I learned a few stuff. So.
Oh, really? You
Yeah.
learned a few things? That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a lazy row. And we talked about this last time, but some of us like to specify the actual name, right? Even though it's literally the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and say items. And we're going to go ahead and reference the align your body items. So this is data that's already given to us right here. And I think for this one, we just... yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, use other composable that probably have.
Right,
before.
exactly. So we're going to go ahead and mention the actual element. And then we have it's dot drawable, it's dot text. So these are things that are, or I guess data that is part of our align your body element, essentially. And as we can see here in the preview, it luckily worked. So yeah, that's pretty much what they want us to get started with for the most part. Obviously, we need to tweak it a little bit to match the actual design that they had in place. So we're gonna probably add some padding here and there. I think there's a huge space in between here, so I'm gonna go back real quick to this to just see what the ask was. So they wanted this item to be 88 dp, so the size is 88 dp, and the circle shape is fine. But I think this is probably it, the text modifier. So we're saying 24 dp on the top. But they wanted 24 dp from the baseline, I think, right?
Yeah, it's padding baseline, the one you have to use. It's not pad.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll update it. And then for the bottom is just 8 dp bottom. So
no, just replace padding for padding from baseline, I think it
right.
is.
Padding from baseline. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's it.
You're an encyclopedia, man. All right. So once it renders, it should should fix it. So that looks a little bit better. And what else? Yeah, I think that's it for the most part. So let's go back to our row. And any questions so far? Am I talking too fast? We haven't done much, but just want to make sure. All right, cool.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy at all. Oh, we bring up some pretty dumb points here and there. Or at least I do. I have some dumb questions here and there. So I'll be the first one to volunteer. So yeah, the children of the lazy row, lazy row aren't composables. Instead, use lazy list, DSL, blah, blah, blah. So we basically are calling this items function and then passing the list that we have. And just iterating through that and composing this element, the align your body element. So that's why we see that entire row show up for the most part. Obviously the spacing is what we need to fix now. And we need to learn about arrangements. I don't think we've covered that yet, right? For the most part. So
that's important. That's a give. I think we should read this part because that's very useful.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a look. In the previous step, you learned about alignments, which are used to align a container's children on the cross axis, right? So for a column, the cross axis would be the horizontal axis, right? So thinking about a column, they're talking about horizontal being the cross axis, and then for a row would be vertical, of course. However, we can make a decision on how to place the child composables. So this kind of like, if you've ever done web, like Flexbox, probably like Flex component. But for the most part, this is, I'm assuming, the different type of arrangements that we have available to us. So if we take a look here, equal weight will expand the items so that they are equally all the way from beginning to end. Space between will expand the space between the items, but keep the item size the same, right? And correct me if I'm wrong at any of this. I'm just literally looking at the diagram. Space around sounds like it's even for the items around it. So like, for example, A has this space in between here and at the end here, but also the start of B is over here and the B is over here, start of C over here, etc. Space evenly would probably be even space all around, so it wouldn't count the end of A and the start of B, so it would just be like kind of merged in between, right? And would just push everything to the end. Center, obviously center, and then start, obviously start. That's for the row. Wow, it's a lot of them. All right, let's take a look at column. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, so same thing for the most part, equal weight, space between, etc., but just for the column side. So that makes a lot of sense. And this is probably important. So in addition to these arrangements, you can also use space by to add a fixed space between each child composable. So it doesn't have to be anything like arbitrary like this or abstract. You could actually specify, I guess, in maybe like DP or something like that, right? Because they mentioned it here. The space between items, which is cool. Now you said this was important, Pedro.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, I can see why more or less, but in your own words.
It's very useful. When I started learning Compose, I didn't know about this, and I added the space.
The spacer composable.
The spacer composable to each element, and I was like, oh.
This makes it a lot easier. That's awesome. Well, yeah. Does this make sense to everybody? Like more or less? Is there any questions? Don't be shy.
Makes sense to me.
Awesome. Anybody else? All right, cool. So in this example, the space by method is the one you need to use as you want to place 8dp between each item essentially in the lazy row. So we have the lazy row and we want to basically reference the horizontal arrangement, right? To be spaced by 8dp. So if we head back to the top here, this is what they're talking about. This is what they're referring to. So each item right here has a space of 8dp, I think. Even though, I mean, this is me nitpicking right now, but does that look like a little closer here at the beginning and then more spread out here in the middle? Maybe that's just me, but
that's just
my eyes might be deceiving me. But for the most part, that's cool. All right, so let's go ahead and try it out. I'll go back to the code and I'll go ahead and reference the horizontal arrangement here. So horizontal arrangement is equal to arrangement, right? Arrangement dot space by 8dp. Cool. And then we should see some spacing in here for this align your row preview in a second. There it is. Beautiful, beautiful. I think we're still missing some spacing at the front and end, but let's see what else the guide asks of us.
What do you think it is? That's what I learned today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Why do I think this is? I mean, space by would be for the items themselves, right? So like the end of the first item to the start of the last item, I think. I don't know. Let's take a look. So it says place, this is from the actual source. So place children such that each two adjacent ones are spaced by a fixed space distance across the main axis. The spacing will be subtracted from the available space that the children can occupy. The space can be negative. I didn't know that. In which case, children will overlap. Okay, so that's still, I mean, that explanation did not make any more sense to me personally, but If anyone has an interpretation that can make more sense, feel free to unmute.
It seems like Pedro knows something.
He does. I know he does. He's just
Let's continue.
waiting.
No, I won't say a thing. Let's continue.
He's making me suffer for no reason. All right, let's take a look at this. Yeah, so the design looks like this. You need to add some padding on the sides as well. Adding a simple padding modifier will not do the trick in this case. Oh, that's interesting. Let's see how it reads. Okay, so adding a simple will not do the trick in this case. Okay.
Just do it. Just add the padding to the start
To see what happens. Okay.
That is what I learned today.
To the actual modifier you said of the lazy row?
Add it to the modifier.
Okay. So we'll say like padding, right?
Padding. You can use horizontal padding.
Horizontal, yeah, horizontal. And then we'll add like 8 because I think. Oh no, we'll add 16. I think it was horizontal. It goes 16.
Yeah, 16 is okay.
Based on the design, I guess.
The thing is, you have to make the preview interactive. Otherwise, it won't do anything.
Really? Let's
It
see.
might add the padding, but just make it interactive.
All right. Well, it didn't do something. I mean, it definitely added some padding.
I think it added the padding.
Oh, but look at this.
Yeah, that's a padding.
Is this part of the? Am I seeing something different, or is this kind of cutting it off? I'm not sure.
That's the thing. That's what I learned today.
Oh, I see. I didn't even notice that until now. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So I'm running the interactive now, or should be building it anyway. Let's see what it looks like, and I think I should be able to play around with it. So, oh yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you could see this well, but for the most part, at the end here, we notice that there's like a cutoff, right? Like the row itself has a padding, but that means that like you're pushing the body of the row itself in, right? So the items start wherever the padding ends, essentially. But how do we go around that?
Let me continue. Yeah, it's simple. It's adding the lazy rows and the lazy grids has another property that is called content padding. So instead of adding a padding modifier, you add the content padding.
All right. Well, we'll take a look now. But yeah, I see it here being mentioned. We'll take a look now. So let's go back to the guide. And here it is. So as you can see, when scrolling, the first and last visible item are cut off on both sides of the screen. To maintain the same padding, but still scroll your content within the bounds of the parent, without clipping it, all lists must provide a parameter to the lazy row called content padding and set it to 16 dp. Okay. So this is the way I understood that. If you just set padding, you're saying the padding for the lazy row will push the body of the lazy row in. But if you say content padding, you're pushing the actual items themselves within the bounds of the padding.
I have a question. Is it any difference between padding and margin in Jetpack Compose?
For the most part, I mean, that's a great question. So in views, we use margin all the time, but in Compose,
there is no margin.
There's no margin.
You don't need it, basically.
So it's a completely different mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, say it like this. Do you remember in the view system, we set the margin of a child element from a parent element, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So here you add the padding to the parent element. So it's basically the same thing as adding a margin. So now it's everything simplified to just padding.
Right.
Add padding to the children or add padding to the parent.
Okay, yeah, I use padding for make my button, for example, more like I don't know, that that user can tap anywhere.
Oh yeah, like the touch
bottom.
target size.
Yeah, like and how I should use the same like approach here in the Jetpack Compose to like not margin but padding any then.
Pedro, that's for you.
I
so
couldn't understand the first part. Sorry.
yeah, so the question was this. So she's asking, in terms of like button. So for example, in accessibility, they'll say like, 48 dp, right? For the touch target size, and she usually adds padding to that. But in general, like when it comes to when to use or the areas where you would normally use margin, right? How does that relate or correlate to Compose's padding? That's what I understood. But if I messed that up, go ahead and recorrect.
Well, in that case, imagine that you want to add the margin when you have inversions, right? The first picture we have in the preview.
Right here.
That one. So can you click the element? Okay. Yep. No, but hover over so we can see the lines.
Okay.
Okay. So if you add margin top, if you add margin top there, that element will be pushed down, right? It will open like a space on top.
Right. And the size will remain the same for the most part.
Yeah. So that doesn't exist here. What you have to do is to add the padding to the lazy row instead. Or any other element that you have.
Yeah, it's more efficient.
Yeah, because the thing is like that it is a tree of elements, so they render one after the other. So it's like a tree of elements. So that's why it applies the padding from the outermost to the innermost.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Do you want me to modify that all, Pedro? To show
let's show her. Okay, so imagine you have the column, right?
Yeah.
So the column has a modifier. If in that case, if you add padding top, the image will be pushed down.
Let's say like 16 dp, just to make it big. You'll see once it renders.
It should. I hope so.
If you're wrong, it's gonna be funny. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's take a look at this.
Right, Pablo, or not?
Yeah, there we go.
That's
so,
right.
So luckily it worked.
Is this your question? Was this your question, right, Tina?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I understood from that was thinking about it from like a compose perspective, where you have like parent and children, right? Composables. You want to. It's more efficient to add the padding to the parent element, right? So that it pushes all the children down essentially in this column.
Can you please add padding to this image element?
Which one? To this one?
To the image itself.
Yeah,
yes.
Sure. We can go ahead and say like padding all around, I guess. All ADP. We'll say.
Yeah, I'll see what happens.
It should push it all in, or make more space, I guess. But then again, the size.
Oh, then 88, you won't see anything.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, yeah, you see, it gets pushed in. Because I think the way it works is in a chain, right? If I'm not mistaken. So like it'll say 88 dp, clip it, and then add the padding within that.
That's right.
Yeah. Also, if also remember what I said the first time. If you put the padding first, that will also work.
Right. So let's try that real quick.
Because the order when you add the modifiers is important.
Okay.
The order matters. Yeah.
So now.
Yeah. Well, I don't even.
It doesn't make much difference because we're clipping the content, but if you don't clip it, maybe it looks different. Maybe.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I'll see what it looks like, and then I'll remove it and see what it looks like.
Yeah, because remember, also this image is a out of the box compose element.
Right.
So we don't know how it is, right? They provide to us the basic stuff.
Right.
But I didn't get why we still don't have padding here in this image. I mean, in sense of padding in the past view system. Now here, like if I want more area for my image, where I should put my padding here.
Yeah, you're talking about like the margin, right? Like why we don't have margin period in Compose.
I'm talking about padding. So I think that if we can add padding to this image, the area of this image should be like.
Maybe if I didn't have this size modifier.
No, I think, do you refer to the spacing between elements, Sheena?
Is the question to me?
Yes. Are you referring to the spacing between each image?
No. I'm like, at first, if I see this first image, I just want to have more space for example, horizontally between two borders. See,
right.
That if person went top on this image, this person has more area to top, you know.
So in that case, you should add padding to the column.
Yeah.
To all the sizes of the column.
Yeah.
No, why column if I want it's only for item works? Like for image, for example, like why we can't just add padding not to column, because it's like whole element, right? I want to make it only with image, or I didn't get something.
No, you
wanted to make clickable the image only. That's
Yeah,
if that were the case.
Yeah, like basically saying if I wanted to add just padding, for example, to the sides, horizontal sides of this one image, or like every image item, for example, why do we have to modify the column is a question.
Or, well, what you could do there, you could wrap the image in a box and add the padding to the box. So,
I'll do
Aldo,
can
we do that?
Yeah.
Remember,
I think what she was asking is that since we have a row, right? The row is containing two items, the image and the text. And she specifically wants to focus on the image, not the text. Because when you add the padding in the column, it's going to affect all of the child elements, which means it's going to affect the text too. But she's saying that she doesn't want to have anything done to the text itself. She wants to focus on the image. So if she wants to add padding just to the image itself, how do you go about just focusing on one of the elements instead of the entire elements of all the rows? Of the row.
I believe using padding should work in the image. Now, if it doesn't, it's what Pedro says, use a box, because the image may not respect the padding, and just use the content, because it respect more the content scale, sort of. But yeah, that's a nice workaround. Use a box, wrap it in a box.
Yeah, the workaround could be that it's like in the view system we have the frame layout. Imagine that you have a frame layout, a center on an image, and add the margin that you wanted to the image. It's something similar, but here you just wrap the image within the box.
But I want this space not just it works not just a simple space, but as padding in the past, like it would be clickable for this image.
Yeah, in that case, you make the box clickable, not the image.
So I should use box just for adding padding to image, like padding.
No, because we are trying to accomplish what you want, right? So you want more space only in the image. So the workaround could be just wrapping that image view within a box and add the padding to the box, and that will do the trick.
Is there a solution that's not a workaround?
But Aldo, what happened when we added the padding to the image? It didn't work?
I guess with the sizing modifier, it probably wouldn't work, at least what we have here.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
You
let's
said
try it without it. Let's try it without
place
it.
place it after the size.
So place it
it
after the size of the
after the
padding.
size. Yeah. You said it has a size, then apply this padding. Set 50 dB, whatever. Or do it
50
no.
dp.
Do it in the whole. Okay.
The whole object,
Okay,
Oh,
so-
and the whole. What do you mean, like outside or?
all values, like all instead of horizontal, all.
yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I don't know.
Let's take a look.
All right. Cool. See what happened. It should work.
So let's take a look. It's still rendering. So
All right.
so
Is it?
it did, like, it pushed the image in, sort of.
Yeah.
But as you can see, like, it's kind of weird. Like
It's, yeah, that's the thing, because the image itself tries to paint all the pixels in the available space. So I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, the content scale is important. Maybe try a different content scale, like centering. Maybe I don't know.
for this one.
Oh yeah, try to change the content
The
scale.
image.
Oh,
the
this one right
content-
here instead of crop.
Crop.
See the options they have. See the options.
Let me see what other options.
Field. Maybe field bounds. Field bounds.
Fill bounds. All right, let's see.
Yeah, it's like 6 of them.
Not much of a change from what I see.
Same, pretty much the same. Yeah.
And whatever. I mean, if I remove this, it's gonna be huge.
For now, the workaround is wrap it in a box.
Yeah. That's I do that a lot, to be honest.
And,
I definitely gotta look it up though.
there are things. I mean, it won't wrapping up the image in a box won't affect the performance at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's just
But-
kind of. It feels weird to put another element.
Yeah,
like that.
it's not very intuitive. It's
Yeah.
like having a coordinator layout
Right.
and inside a frame layout and inside an image with all the margins and paddings. But this is fast. This will render fast, and it doesn't affect much the performance of the app.
Okay. I mean, for the most part, that was a great question either way. And I'll definitely look around. If I find an answer, I'll let you know. but that's a good workaround that was provided. That wouldn't be provided usually in
I
this
think
code.
that it's good homework for Pedro. Just
Yeah, just find out, Pedro.
I'm doing it right now. I'm Googling.
See what Stack
Great.
Overflow says.
I'm Googling that right now.
All right, while you do that, let's take a look at the rest of the stuff real quick. All right, so we added the content padding for the items, and I think, let me take a look at this. So let's take a look at the row. And instead of horizontal, I think they wanted all around, because it seems here like there's some padding on the top, maybe. Oh no, horizontal. Okay, cool. So we're on the right track. It'll look like that. Perfect. Any questions for this so far? And let me know if you do find the answer, by the way.
okay, I have a question, but just really quick. What the difference when I set padding through the padding values here
Oh,
and
right here.
through the modifier?
That is a good question.
Oh, content padding. Maybe it's our answer.
Can you say the question again? I didn't catch that.
Padding values here. Being
Yeah,
used
so-
Oh, okay. Okay.
for the content
Oh,
padding.
content, content padding is, I think that it's like between elements, right?
So the content padding, and I actually didn't even modify it, so that's my bad and good call out. If you see here, the last image or the last item is getting cut off because I put padding alone, which it would mean the padding for the lazy row function, right? And if I use content padding, it'll push the item in so that you won't notice that cutoff because you're not pushing the lazy rows actual view in, but more the actual items themselves in. Like you're pushing the, yeah, I guess I don't even know what I called it, but the view area of the items essentially in. So you'll see it here once I add it here, I'll say like content padding is equal to, and then we'll add padding values. They wanted, horizontal, 16 dp. You'll see here, like once the last item re-renders, it should be showing the entire circle. Yeah, and it does. So what that means is you'll still have, I guess it's still rendering, but you'll still have like the actual padding himself at the beginning and at the end, but it won't cut off the items in this case. So if I were to run that interactively, see what it would look like. Like the items are not being cut off, but once you reach the end, you still have that padding. So that's the difference primarily.
I see.
Yeah. Awesome. Good question. Good question. Makes sense to everybody?
Yes, it makes sense.
Awesome. All right, I'll stop that. And let me check the chat real quick.
No, that was me.
Oh, gotcha. Padding value is a class. Yeah, so if we take a look at this real quick. The description is creates a padding of horizontal DP along the left and right edges and a vertical DP along the top and bottom edges, essentially. So that's for the actual padding values.
Yeah, but also if you add the modifier padding, the thing is that content padding is a property of the laser row of type padding values.
Right. And it's explained here actually.
Yeah, but in the modifier, if you add modifier.padding and you add padding values, top, right, left, whatever, it will apply to all the sides of the box itself.
Right. And it says here, so for the modifier, obviously the modifier, it applies to the entire layout. So when we say modifier.padding, you're referring to the entire layout's padding, right, being pushed in. And then for content padding, it says a padding around the whole content itself. So whatever is contained within the lazy row or column or whatever. Yeah, so basically that avoids the whole clipping thing. But I think...
And the padding values itself is not a class, it's an interface. I'm checking here. So it's an actual interface.
Gotcha. Cool. Good questions. Keep them coming. All right. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and head over to the next one. So favorite collections grid. So we're going to be creating a grid instead of another row in this particular case. And yeah, we're going to be using lazy horizontal grid essentially. So that'll take two things. It has a rows, right? So how many rows do we have? We pass the modifier, and then we basically do the same thing. We iterate through the items and compose these individual card items or elements. Makes sense. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. So it was lazy horizontal grid. Lazy horizontal grid. And then we're just going to go ahead and pass the modifier. Let me make sure this is... All right, cool. And then we need rows. So it's a required parameter for this one. So we'll say rows is equal to... And then what it takes here is grid cells, right? So let me take a look at this again. Grid cells.fixed. So grid cells.fixed. I'm curious about the adaptive one. If you have any insight on that you want to share, go ahead. But for now, follow along. And then items. So we can pass the favorite collections data, so the provided data. And then we'll just say favorite collections card and reference their drawable and text. So it.drawable, it.text. Awesome. All right, that's huge. That's huge. I don't think we messed up anything that they wanted us to do. So for the most part, I think this is something that is expected. Let's take a look. As you can see, you simply replace the lazy row from the previous step with a lazy horizontal grid. However, this won't give you the correct result. So yeah, we're on the same page. Everything's all over the place. It kind of looks like those arrangements that we talked about earlier. A little bit. So the grid takes up as much space as its parent, which means the favorite collection cards are stretched way too much vertically. Adapt the composable so that the grid has horizontal content padding of 16 dp. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So content padding is equal to what was it, padding values, right? Horizontal 16 dp. What's next? The horizontal and vertical arrangement is spaced by 16 dp. So yeah, we could just use horizontal arrangement. I can't believe I typed the whole thing out. Android Tutor's not even trying to help me anymore. Or like, you're on your own. All right, there we go. All right, so arrangement dot space by, right? They wanted us to space it by 16 dp. So space by 16 dp. And then the same thing for the vertical. So we're seeing here, like when I added the content padding, some of the items got pushed at the beginning here. And now when we did the arrangement space by, now we're seeing this sort of like space between them, between the items. Let's see what else they wanted us. The grid height is 168 dp. So that would go, I guess, in the actual modifier, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's, yeah. So we'll say height 168 dp. And the modifier of the favorite collection card specifies a height of 80 dp. So let's go to the favorite collection card. And for this one, I guess it would be they want us to do the surface, right? If I'm not mistaken, because that's the parent function. Or what do you think? Or would it be the row? I don't even know at this point, because we have width set up here technically.
Let me check on.
We could try. I mean, we could try either one. Let's take a look. So this would be, we'll try here for now, since we have the width here.
Oh, the row,
Right.
the surface doesn't have a modifier. It's just a modifier that you receive from. Are you talking about the car or the row?
Yeah, like which one are we supposed to add the height to?
No, that will be to the row collection card.
To the row, because the surface is just there to help with like the whole dynamic coloring and all that stuff, right?
Oh.
And the shape, I guess.
Now, the thing is that you have to, in your favorite collections grid, you create items of size and you pass in favorite collections card.
Right.
And in favorite collections card, you have to pass a modifier with height of 80 dp.
So they want us to specify it when we call it, essentially.
Yeah, when you're calling fall there,
Right.
you pass in a modifier there.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for explaining that. All right, let's go ahead and do that real quick. So modifier equals modifier dot
But height.
80 dp. Oops, dp. And that should render it. Let me double check here. So this is the one we're taking a look at.
That is basically to tell us that all of composables is a good practice to have a parameter which is a modifier.
Right.
Like we have here in line 185, the same we have it for favorite collection card.
Right.
That has an empty modifier. So
Yeah.
if somebody else, if we're creating composable for somebody else, we're allowing them to modify or composable, applying modifiers on their own.
Right, because the high level modifications, like the stuff that applies to most of the items, you want them to come from the parent, right? For the most part. And then
No, yeah, that depends. That depends
Right.
on what you want to do, because you could also provide a composable function that you don't want anyone to modify it.
True.
So
Awesome. We'll get insight. Any questions so far? I think we covered this completely. And yeah, you were right about that. Right.
mhm.
Oh, well, I guess the image is the only thing that's missing. So the image right now does not look like that. And I think we might have missed something. Let me double check.
Also the height of the lazy grid.
Oh, wait. So I have the width here for this, which might be also having something to do. Like I have here image size 5060p. This is, it might be all wrong to be honest at this point for this. But
No, the lazy horizontal grid also has a modifier.
let's take a
And
look
the
at that.
modifier is height of 168p.
Right, yeah, I already have that in there. So
Oh, you have it there. Okay, so yeah.
so that should be working. And then we have the height set for the card. Cool. Yeah, I wonder why that's showing like that. Let me take a look. Maybe if we go back, right? So let's go back real quick to the individual favorite collection card, because maybe I missed a step here. So these are the specifications actually. So it's definitely wrong in that sense for the most part. Just right off the bat, like for example, this card I put 192 DP for the row when it should be 255, I guess. That's the width that they want us to give.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and update that. And then for the actual image, they want it to be a size of, or I guess 80, yeah. 80,
Size 80.
right. So let's go ahead and update that. And hopefully that fixes that weird issue. Let's take a look. Yeah, all right, awesome. So we're definitely cooking with fire now. Let's go back. We did that, we did this. It looks good. Next. And now, I think we're wrapping up actually soon. So in the home screen, there are multiple sections that follow the same pattern. They have a title, right? So as we see here, align your body, and then we have the row, favorite collections, and then we have the grid. And that's pretty much what they want us to do here. Like they want us to follow this design essentially. As you can see, each section has a title and a slot. The title has some spacing and style information associated with it. The slot can be filled in dynamically with different content. Makes sense, okay. To implement this flexible section container, you use so-called slot APIs. Before you implement this, read the section on the documentation page about slot-based layouts. Is there a TLDR? I mean, I'm definitely going to dive into this, but I'm not sure if where this would be actually. Let me see. So
That is literally that you can pass in any other
this one. Okay.
slot-based layout. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Cool.
That's a. Can you read? No. Yeah. Let's stay there. Composable usually take a content composable lambda. Content add composable unit. Slots API expose multiple content parameters for specific uses. For example, the top up bar allows you to provide content for title, navigation, and icon. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay, so we're using content, the parameter, to be able to pass or slot in these different composable functions that we've created into a different one. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
To create the home section, it's called home section composable, I think.
Right. Oh yeah, home section. So I have it here.
That one.
All right.
So that is what we have to do.
All right. So I mean, before we even look at the code, let's go ahead and just take a look at what we have here. So they want us to modify the home section so that we slot in these, or are able to slot in a title and whatever composable function we have.
The content.
Right, the content. So right off the bat, what I'm thinking is we're just going to go ahead and add a title parameter and a content parameter. Does that make sense? To the home section right here. So that when we reference somewhere else, we can most likely, I guess they want us to be one of these string res things, title. And then for the content, we're going to go ahead and say content. I think it was composable here, right? And then what was it, like a lambda? So something like this unit. Is that, let me take a look. All right, we're good. And yeah, they want us to do the string res. Okay, so for the most part, this is fine. And yeah, they want it to sort of be a column. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that real quick. We'll say column, pass in the modifier. And then within that column, obviously we're gonna have the title itself. So we're gonna say text, and then the text is gonna be string resource with the ID being the title that we're passing in. And then the next thing would be the composable, essentially the content. So how does that work here? Oh, the content, we just reference it like a function. So we just say content. Makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody, more or less? This area right here that we just did?
Yes.
Awesome. And then I think they want us to modify the preview. So let's take a look at that. Right. So the preview right now, it doesn't have a title or anything like that. I'm assuming we could just use like, some of these data elements that we've had from before. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. So we need the title and the content. So I'll say title is equal to, and then content is equal to. For the title itself, we are going to be using like this, I guess. What's it called? Where's the title that we used? I mean, it's the same name, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that in here. r.id, string dot ab1, and then the content is going to reference this is a home section preview, so I guess it'll reference the this align your body thing.
So it's a row.
Right. And this one actually would be different because it would be a align your body, the title, not inversions, because that's for the individual element. All right, cool. And then the align your body row. Boom. So that should show the row and the title. Yeah, it does. All right. The title's still a little bit off, obviously. Like it's not padded or anything like that. But for the most part, we have it set up. They want us to have title medium and some spacing and stuff. So yeah, we could probably just do that here. Or in the home section, maybe. And let's take a look. So it would be content padding, right? Technically. I think that's what we talked about last time. Or I guess this one doesn't really have it. So it would be just a modifier that would be touching. In this case, let me take a look.
I think they add there is a spacer between the text and the content.
Oh, really? Maybe
Yeah.
I shouldn't. Let me take a look at this then.
I'm spraying.
Oh, and actually they wrote this a little different than what I had for the preview. Let me go back.
They don't. No, they didn't. They added to the text within the home section. You
Right.
have a column, a modifier, a text. The text add the same. Paving
Oh, they just did the, okay, yeah.
on this baseline,
Right.
and a little padding, horizontal padding. That's what that we will have to do.
Okay. All right, well, we're definitely going to do that real quick. And then that's what it looks like right now, right? And then we're going to go ahead and redesign it to look like this. So we're going to add the 16dp in the front and probably at the end too, I guess. just for consistency. And then from the baseline of the text, we want to have 40 dp from the top and 16 from the bottom as well. Yeah. And then the title, obviously medium. So let's take a look at that real quick. And then again, if I do anything incorrect, let me know. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add it here to the modifier. So I'll say padding from baseline.
No, that goes to the text.
Oh, it goes directly to the text?
Yeah, the column don't add any modifier to the column.
Right, because we have the content and then that would just... Okay.
It's only the text that you have to modify.
Makes sense. All right, good call it. So let's go ahead and do that here. Modifier is equal to modifier dot padding from baseline.
Top
and then
40, top 40, bottom 16.
Awesome. Bottom equals 16. Perfect.
And then another padding, which is horizontal 16.
Awesome. Horizontal equals 16. Perfect. So we're seeing some of the changes there. And then, of course, the text itself, I think it's style, right? Style.
Yeah, style, typography, title, medium.
Do I even have that? Let me see.
Because this is material 2, and the codelab is material 3.
Oh, then we need to update, man. What's going on?
So what happens?
It happens sometimes. What do we have here? All right. Material icons, material. What would it be? Like just material 3, wasn't it? Like over here?
Yeah, it's material 3.
Okay. Let me sync that. Hopefully it works. And if it does,
it might not.
It might not. Thanks. All right. Yeah, it's. Well, let me just do this then. Let it auto import. Figure it out. Or it might not, like you said.
No, don't do it. Just roll back that.
All right, I'm rolling back. It's not worth it.
Yeah, because the code is material 2, and the codelab refers to material 3. But just add another type, H3, for instance. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll do H3 for now. That seems like.
I think Aldo, you also forgot a material 3, the artifact ID, because you just renamed the group ID. But also the artifact ID is called material 3 in the in the Gradle coordinate. Check that out.
Oh, material. You mean in the actual?
In the Gradle, Gradle coordinate. To be material 3 and material 3, I guess. Let me check. Yeah.
Right.
Just check real quick and.
I mean, either way, if for now, like that's fine. I mean, we might need it for sure. So.
Yeah. That's for the next presentation.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let me see. Oh, and we're actually over time, but let me see if we could just slot this in real quick. So I see that they're just using typography, title medium for material 3. That's fine. We're good there. And the content. Cool. So that was for that. And then, oh wait, did I miss something? Oh, they want us to implement the entire thing, don't they? So they want us to do the home section and then the home screen, I believe. Oh no. All right. So now we created all the different building blocks. We can combine them. So now they want us to combine them. Here's the design we're trying to implement. So we're essentially going to go ahead and drop them into the home screen, if I'm not mistaken. We simply create the search bar in 2 sections below one another. So we're going to be using a column. And then I see here a spacer, of course. Pedro's favorite. So we're going to be adding, I guess, some space in between the different elements. It looks like we have a spacer up here too. So I'm just going to go by that gut feeling and do that. So we'll say like spacer. And then the modifier for this one's going to be modifier dot, what is it? No, not size. Height. There we go. Height. I don't know how much that would be. 16 probably. That's what we've been sticking with forever. So we'll do that. And then we're going to reference the search bar. So we'll say search bar. Then we're going to say spacer again. So same thing. We're going to reference the row So align your body row.
No,
No? Am I wrong?
the section the section that you
Ah,
created.
yes. Of course. I gotta
That
forget. Not that one. Home section. Come on. Of course.
home
We
section,
just
the
made it right now.
Uh-huh.
All right. So let's say title is equal to, or I guess in this particular case, the actual section title will be the align your body. I think it was that we were referencing. Align your body. And then, what was it?
Content.
Content, right? So that would be the align your body.
Body row.
Align your body row. Cool. This one needs a modifier, right? Let me see.
And you have to name the parameter or add the lambda after the closing parameter of the home section.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, you're right. All right, so we'll say content is equal to,
Mm-hmm.
and then use the braces essentially. Cool. And then we're gonna have the same thing, but we're gonna have the other section, which is favorite collections. Favorite collection grid. All right, cool. So let's see what that preview looks like now once we go down here. See if we have to fix it. It's called screen content, right? Home screen. Still rendering, so we'll take a look now.
Recommendation: don't have too many previews.
What can I do about that? Tell me.
It's take a lot of time, even if
Oh, the column. Look at that, bro. I put everything on top of each other. Lovely. All right, so let's do this. Column. Column. Modifier. Oops, modifier. All right. So that should work once it re-renders. And then you said to avoid all the previews?
Yeah. The more previews you have, the more it will take. Although there is a way in Android Studio to reduce the quality of the preview. Yeah, but I'm not quite sure if that is for Compose or for the view system. I don't recall.
Gotcha. I mean, for the most part, we did good. We added the stuff. I think we could probably end it there because we have a couple different sections to go. But any questions? Yeah, I would say. I definitely had a couple, but thankfully we had a good group. I was able to answer most of them.
So far, so good.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty much all I had. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.